This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that? This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this strength that I have, this strength that I have, this strength that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this love that I have, love that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This love that I have. Oh, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this love that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Singing, the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this pride that I have, this pride that I have, this pride that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This pride that I have. I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that? This pride that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. All this peace that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give me my peace that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. Won't you sing about peace? This peace that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. All this joy that I have, this joy that I have, this joy that I have. Oh, yeah, now, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have. I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
Resistance Revival Chorus believes in the words written by the poet Toy Derricott when she wrote, "Joy is an act of resistance." We believe in the words of Mr. Harry Belafonte, who said, "When the movement is strong, the music is strong." We sing to revive the hearts of those who fight for social justice, and we sing together for freedom.
Good morning, and welcome to the home of the Calgary Unitarians. Whoever you are, whomever you love, Wherever you are on your journey of faith or search for meaning, welcome. If you're visiting for the first time, or for the first time in a long time, know that we're grateful to have you with us. We come together in beloved community to grow in wisdom, welcome and deepen relationships, and act for a just and sustainable world. We recognize our responsibility to be stewards of this land. And in doing so, we acknowledge our partnership with those to whom this is their traditional territory. This includes the people of the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations of Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. Treaty 7 was signed on September the 22nd, 1877. Mohkinstsis, now known as the city of Calgary, is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. In offering this land acknowledgement, we honor those who have long been its stewards and accept our shared responsibility to be good caretakers. We acknowledge that treaties were entered into as a collaboration between settlers and Indigenous people, making us all treaty people. My name is Alex Schumacher, and I have the privilege of serving on your board of trustees. I first came to this congregation about 12 years ago. I continue to come because, amongst other things, it fills my need for connections and fellowship, meaningful ritual, and music. As I think it does for others, it also touches on important elements of my life and my relationship with those around me. The focus of today's service on widening the circle and countering racism is certainly in keeping with that. Now, I have a couple of announcements. Each spring, the Unitarian Universalist Office in the UN hosts a conference in New York to instill commitment to global engagement amongst youth and adults and provide skills to take action locally. The theme of this year's virtual intergenerational seminar is All for Climate Justice, Food Equity and Sustainability. This event takes place between the evening of Friday, April 9th and Sunday, April 11th. The details are in the March 11th e-news. A large delegation of Ottawa Unitarians will be attending, and we are invited to attend their pre-orientation activities today at noon. Check out the March 11th e-news for the Zoom link to see what it's all about today at noon. And then an update on our expected return to our building. The board had hoped to return to services in our building in September 2021, but given the changeability of COVID protocols these days, we might well anticipate a later return. Rest assured, however, that the board is continually looking at adjusting our building and programming plans based on new COVID updates, and we'll certainly keep you appraised of any changes. I now invite Reverend Deborah to light our chalice.
Good morning. We come together in beloved community, welcoming all to enter our ever-widening circle of care and concern, that all might be equally included. This is no easy thing. The struggle to build beloved community is work. We will falter. We will grow. We will be changed. We will be challenged as well as comforted. We strive that me might become we. We focus on the potential of us that includes all. Come, let us widen the circle. May the circle of light illuminated by our chalice create our sacred space. May it glow brightly and radiate into the world, shedding its light to expose injustice and oppression. offering a beacon of hope, its warmth welcoming all to the ever-widening circle. We will light our chalice. We welcome all. My daily spiritual practice includes intentionally offering gratitude. It grounds me and centers me, brings me back to the foundations of love that support us all. On Sunday mornings, I have the blessing of sharing this practice with all of you. I am grateful for the 14 people who participated in the Dismantling Racism workshops over the last couple of weeks. May their insights and learning be shared. I also appreciate the many individuals who make this sacred time possible. Our amazing AV team. This morning, Paul, Mitch, and welcome to Ned, technician extraordinaire who regularly supports special events and today is part of the Sunday morning crew. Thank you, Bob, for polishing the recording so that those unable to be with us or who wish to watch it again may do so at another time. Thanks be to Doug, our coffee host, and Alex from our Board of Trustees for the welcome. And I'm grateful for this morning's service participants, Pam and Jocelyn, who you will hear from soon. And our talented and dedicated program staff. Sheila, Director of Religious Education with our children and youth, and Music Director Jane Perry. And I'm also so grateful for each and every one of you, for your presence is essential to create this sacred space. May gratitude fill your hearts as we engage today's challenging and necessary theme. And now I invite Jane Perry to invite us into song.
Good morning, friends. Joy is an act of resistance. Say that with me. Joy is an act of resistance. How powerful is that? And when the music is strong, the movement is strong. So let us join our voices joyfully together this morning as we sing songs, all of which this morning have been written by Black composers and singer-songwriters. In singing these songs together this morning, we express our intention to learn to become anti-racist allies in dismantling racism. Let's sing together. Come and go with me to this land.
Where I'm
was awesome, Jane. Thank you. I always feel grooving in the morning after listening to that. And I'm Sheila McMaster, Director of Religious Education here at the Calgary Unitarians. And you know it is Canadian spring when you see people wearing shorts outside and there's still snow on the ground. So welcome to Canadian spring, everyone. And it's not only spring, but it's daylight savings today. And I don't know about you, I'm a little extra tired today. So I want to say congratulations to everyone who is here this morning. Pat yourself on the back. And I find it's one of those days where you just need to lower the bar a little for yourself, give yourself some kindness. One of my favorite sayings is if the kids are screaming, it means they're still breathing. So that's a good job. And another one is anyone who does not take a nap today can give the bragging rights and say, oh, I pulled an old dayer today and boy, it was rough. So there's lots of good things to look forward to today. Get some bragging rights. And for those of you who are watching from YouTube later today, you can still feel good about it because you're taking a break for your own spiritual development. And we have some really great things today to share with you. One of them is that today the children and youth are going to be discussing the proposed 8th principle, which is we must work together for diversity and against racism and oppression, which is so important. And it's the work we've really been focusing on this year. And today I'd like to share a story with all of you. I shared it a few months back and loved it so much, and it's so timely. I want to share it again. And it's called The Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram X. Kendi with illustrations by Ashley Lukashevsky. And I think you're going to enjoy this. Here we go. The Anti-Racist Baby. Anti-racist baby is bred, not born. Anti-racist baby is raised to make society transform. Babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There's no neutrality. Take these 9 steps to make equity a reality. Open your eyes to all skin colors. Anti-racist baby learns all the colors, not because race is true. If you claim to be colorblind, you deny what's right in front of you. Use your words to talk about race. No one will see racism if we only stay silent. If we don't name race, it won't stop being so violent. Number 3, point at policies as the problem, not people. Some people get more while others get less because policies don't always grant equal access. Shout, there's nothing wrong with people. Even though all races are not treated the same, we are all human, anti-racist baby can proclaim. Celebrate our differences. Anti-racist baby doesn't see certain groups as better or worse. Anti-racist baby loves a world that is truly diverse. Knock down the stack of cultural blocks. Anti-racist baby appreciates how groups speak and dance and create as they choose. Anti-racist baby welcomes groups voicing their unique views. Number 7, confess when being racist. Nothing disrupts racism more than when we confess the racist ideas that we sometimes express. Number 8, grow to be an anti-racist. Anti-racist baby is always learning and changing and growing. Anti-racist baby stays curious about all people and isn't all-knowing. And number 9, believe we shall overcome racism. Anti-racist baby is filled with the power to transcend, my friend. And don't judge a book by its cover, but read until the end. And the author of this book, Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, says, the heartbeat of racism is denial. And the sound of that heartbeat is I'm not a racist. And now to Reverend Deborah for our centering time.
Thank you for sharing that story, Sheila. It so sets the tone, along with joy as an act of resistance to what we want to address this morning. We take time to center ourselves, to focus and ground ourselves. We do this with words, silence, and a musical response. The words for this morning are by Mickey Scott Bay Jones and are inspired by the author of an unknown poem, or an unknown author of a poem. This is titled An Invitation to Brave Space, and this is really what we're inviting us all to this morning and going forward. Together, we will create brave space, because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we all have caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work side by side. In religious community, we share our joys and our triumphs, our sorrows and our broken places. In this circle of care, we make space for the complexity of life, the myriad experiences that bless and break our hearts. The truth of human experience dictates that on any given day, we each come to the table with hearts in different places. It is perhaps especially true on this day when we are addressing and engaging anti-racism. We in this community light candles to recognize and acknowledge the many faces of love, its joys, and consequently its pain. The space that we are in this planet, globally connected to each other. And today our global candle recognizes that it was a year ago, on March 11th, 2020, that the global pandemic was declared. It has revealed our interconnection so concretely and exposed even more clearly the existing inequities, the skewed priorities that call for realignment. It has also shown our capacity to adjust and adapt. May we learn the many lessons offered. Deeper appreciation of the importance of human connection, the recognition of our resilience, and our continued commitment to the ecological welfare of our planet. As I light our global candle, I invite you to name aloud or in silence hold those global concerns on which you wish to shed light. There is so much pain and anxiety these days, so many losses and anniversaries of losses. May sorrow shared bring some comfort. There are members of this beloved community currently in the hospital. Many of us or our loved ones are suffering illness of body, mind, and spirit. May the loving thoughts extended be received as healing energy. So much uncertainty. Uncertainty of safe housing and adequate food, and many financial and other stresses. As I light our candle of concern and sorrow, I invite you to speak aloud or hold in silence those sorrows and concerns resting on your heart. Along with life's sorrows and tribulations, there's also joy and celebration. We celebrate your presence here today. A joy to come together and to welcome new visitors, becoming friends in our midst in this virtual world. There have been announcements of new babies on the way and recoveries from illness, relational conflict resolved, and wedding anniversaries and other anniversaries. As I light our candle of joy and celebration, I invite you to speak aloud or hold in silence those individuals and situations brightening your heart today. We celebrate this community, all it gives us individually and collectively, and our individual capacity to contribute to its sustainability. This morning, I would welcome Marcia Epstein to offer a testimonial. Marcia?
Thank you. Hello. Today is Pi Day 314 or 3.14, named for the mathematical constant that defines the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, called a transcendental number because it's infinite. March 14th is Albert Einstein's birthday, and also mine, a time to recognize circles, cycles, and wheels moving forward. This is my 4th year with the Calgary Unitarians, my 3rd as a member. I never expected to join anything called a church, so it helps that this one is a little bit vague about the term. I grew up in a very secular American Jewish family with parents who were staunch atheists, so my background in religion was thin, but I kept wondering about what sort of spirituality might offer a door to open. At university and afterward, I had opportunities to sing in churches, Hindu temples, and Sufi ceremonies, and to sample their practices. The collection of samples kept on growing with study and experience, adding Quaker meetings, Tibetan Buddhism, and glimpses of indigenous spirituality. Then it all went quiet for a long time. There was work, lots of it. There was science to answer questions, and there was music, my strongest spiritual practice. Every other option seemed to be lacking something. Too much dogma, too little singing, not enough deep conversation, or insufficient connection with the community. Later, in Calgary, I heard the occasional remark from friends who knew this community, and I started getting curious about it, but there never seemed to be time to drop in and find out more. Then, in 2017, my husband left his body in the aftermath of a complicated surgery. With no children or siblings or him, I knew I would need emotional support and a stable community of people who could offer growth as well as sympathy. So I worked up the courage to attend a service here one Sunday. I'm feeling a little fragile this morning. I've been here ever since. It's home now. A place with creative and inspiring services, meaningful committee work, social gatherings and social justice, challenges, compassion, and plenty of respect for science, music, and people. As we move forward into being a community more fully dedicated to equity and diversity, widening our circle, let's acknowledge what we already do really well, caring about important issues and caring about each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia, for sharing your thoughts with us. I'm Duff Bond. I'm on the stewardship team, and I expect you know that it's stewardship time again. We ask each of you today to reflect on what being part of Calgary Unitarians means to you and how it enhances your life. Please think about how you can help our beloved community with a pledge of contributions for the coming year. Some can give a little, some can give a lot. Please consider being as generous as you can. If you're new to our congregation and haven't received a personal pledge package, you can find out about our stewardship process on our website. You can even make a pledge simply by sending an email to pledge@calgaryunitarians.ca. Your donations will, of course, be tax deductible. How are we doing so far in this campaign? We're hoping to raise at least $205,000. As of last night, we had 28 pledges received for $58,000. Let's keep those pledges coming in. You're all welcome to join us next Sunday, March 21st, for the Celebration Sunday service, when we invite you to make your pledge during the service if you haven't already done so. And before the service starts, try rustling up some chili with one of the recipes we included in your pledge package. We can all have our usual Celebration Sunday lunch, just in our own homes. Please make your pledge by Saturday, March 27th. That's so your name will be included in the draw we'll hold during the next day's service. The winner will receive a gift basket full of tempting chocolate, wine, tea, and homemade jam, as well as 2 lovely wine glasses. Don't miss your chance to win. Now to Reverend Deborah.
I grew up within this faith tradition. As a youth in what was then called LRY, or Liberal Religious Youth, we were encouraged to engage social justice. Pivotal for me was one of those engagements with social justice that had me help to coordinate a city walkout of high school students who were resisting a number of issues, like guys not having their hair longer than their collars. Remember when? Us having to wear uniforms and certain books that we were not supposed to read. When instead of being expelled, the school board invited those of us in the leadership of that to the table and asked us what we did want. It was a turnaround. We knew so well what we did not want, had not quite fully articulated what we did want. And this has led me to an understanding of doing social justice work that we need, along with getting rid of what we do not want any longer, to have a vision of what we do want. I can still recall when we in this congregation were engaged in crafting our mission statement, when the words, "We come together in beloved community," were added as the opening statement, an aspirational declaration of what we see as our purpose, of what we do want. Creating beloved community requires addressing the barriers to it in order for it to be a reality. For us, in a predominantly white denomination, this means looking both individually and institutionally at why that is not so, when our outside broader communities are so much more diverse than they are within. Now, this has been, of course, an ongoing conversation. We're pretty good at discussing issues, and that is for sure. There's history also of how we as a denomination have fallen short of actualizing the welcome we proclaim and hope to live out in our first principle of affirming the worth and dignity of every person. The people of color within our denomination have been calling for attention to this for years. There is history. When a particular incident of challenging hiring practices that favored white candidates came forward, the proverbial stuff hit the fan. Now that was in the US. It became a focus south of the border, but we recognize that it is here in Canada as well, that we have our own history and are complicit in maintaining white supremacy culture. Just as a country, we recognize the importance of hearing the stories of those impacted through the truth, healing, and reconciliation process, which resulted in the report and 94 calls to action. The UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association, south of the border, established the Commission on Institutional Change. that listen to the stories from within our denomination. And their report is titled Widening the Circle of Concern, which is also today's title. And it has produced calls to action for us. I'm delighted that next fall there will be a Canadian national series of workshops using the study guide, edited perhaps somewhat for our Canadian context. I can remember when this began back in 2017 that I was incredibly triggered by the term white supremacy. I in no way felt like I was part of a community or that wore white hoods and burned crosses. Now, 4 years later, this is common language, and there is an understanding that it refers to the historical consequences of colonization and that it permeates the whole global system. There is also a recognition that white privilege doesn't mean being special. It rather means that we have unearned benefits because of the color of our skin. There have already been so many moments for me of discomfort, so many moments of feeling like I made a oops, and I am declaring to be an anti-racist. Going back to Ibram X. Kendi's book, The Anti-Racist Baby, I have had to continue to train myself to be an anti-racist baby. For he says, and I quote, "The opposite of racist isn't not racist. It is anti-racist." What's the difference? One endorses either the idea of a racial hierarchy as a racist or racial equality as an anti-racist. One either believes problems are rooted in a group of people as a racist or locates the roots of problems in power and policies as an anti-racist. One either allows racial inequities to persevere as a racist or confronts racial inequities as an anti-racist. There is no in-between safe space of not racist. Remember, there is no safe space. And so I commit to being anti-racist, even though it may be and will be incredibly uncomfortable at times. I will always put one foot forward and do my best to lead with love. Jane?
The road of anti-racism and becoming anti-racist is a long one, full of challenges, but also full of community and full of hope. As the wise philosopher said, the longest journey begins with the first step. Melanie D'Amour is a Black singer-songwriter, composer, conductor, and activist who lives in Oakland, California, and this next song is hers, One Foot in Front of the Other and Lead with Love. There's a chorus that we'll all sing together, and then it's call and response. I sing a line, and you sing it back with me. It is not an accompanied piece. It's a piece that we're just going to sing ourselves. Here we go. You can clap if you want. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lift up your eyes, don't you despair. Look up ahead, the path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared, and I'm scared too, but here I am, right next to you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope, you're not alone. Don't you give up, keep moving on. We gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. We gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And lead with love, and lead with love.
Hello, my name is Jocelyn Keith Asante, and I'd like to thank Jane very much for that wonderful, wonderful song. Very true words, very true words. I was raised by parents who appreciated the worth and dignity of all people. They both lived through Great Depression and fought in World War II. Mom in Washington, D.C., expediting radio equipment for the British Air Command, and Dad on the battlefields of Europe, both fighting the racist Nazi ideology that had gripped an entire country and threatened a continent. They found the Unitarian Fellowship in Calgary and was drawn to its principles. We moved to Houston when I was 6 and stayed till I was 16. During that time, they taught us that every person had dignity and value. As Dad worked full-time and was a student at Rice University, he would bring students home for dinner for the high holidays throughout the year, always the students of color. It was like learning about other cultures without traveling. Living in Houston was living in a white-only world, as segregation was alive and well, organized by the real estate agents who kept Houston separated. Only light-colored people could move into our neighborhood. The Unitarian LRY group invited African-American teens to come to our LRY dances on Fridays, so we had an opportunity to meet them. While this was a novel idea, there was no reciprocal meeting at their church, which would have been more equitable. This inequity was brought to my attention by Reverend Deborah, who has impressive anti-racism capacity. We attended marches with the church after the assassinations of President Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On our first day back at school following Dr. King's funeral, the football player in the desk behind me said, "I'm so glad that N-word died, so we got a day off school." I jumped up out of my desk and looked at him straight in the eye and said, "You really haven't thought much about what you're saying, have you? You just listen to your parents and parrot what they say. You need to do a lot of work and find out what an amazing man Dr. King was and what a tragedy is that he is gone. Grow up and think for yourself." We moved back to Calgary, and my new friends had to teach me that here in Calgary, it was the native people who were not liked because they were drunk and lazy. It was later that I started to learn about multi-generational trauma resulting from residential schools where small children were stolen from their parents, sexually assaulted, starved, ridiculed, forced to only speak English, and beaten when they did not. And that did not end till the late 1990s. I met and married a man from Ghana. He brought his son to Calgary to finish his schooling. I was so concerned about the racism that was so apparent here that I joined anti-racism groups to help get rid of racism, especially in the school system. I learned about my unlearned advantage because of my racial identity, in my case, white privilege. I also learned that because of my socialization in a world powered by white supremacy, I automatically responded as if I was always right and must be listened to. Later, during our move out of Wildwood, our real estate agent suggested we would be more comfortable in the Northeast. Why would my husband want a 2 or 3 hour commute twice a day as he teaches at Mount Royal University? Much of my learning was thanks to being married to a live-in anti-racism coach. Early on, I would stomp off in anger when he pointed out a racist statement I had made. I got to the point that I was afraid to speak because everything I said would be racist. I also cried a lot. Thankfully, I have learned now to observe my racist thoughts and statements and either stop them or apologize as soon as I say them. And when I am corrected, I don't get mad anymore. I've become happy to learn and thankful for having my racism pointed out. After reading White Fragility, I'm no longer in the White Woman's Tears Club. Anti-racism is a constant learning experience with many rewards, many learnings, and much unpacking of my first impulses. There is hope. With the information and strategies learned from much reading, my personal anti-racism trainers, as well as Wilburn and Patricia's workshop, and Dr. David Camp's latest workshop, I have learned to use my memories of when I was racist to connect with those who have not yet understood their own racism. These conversations will bring new understanding about how to become anti-racist.
Good morning. Why am I committed to anti-racist work? Well, I wasn't at first. I thought anti-racism didn't apply to me or to our Unitarian members. I wasn't racist, nor was our faith community. For us, everyone is the same. We don't differentiate skin colors. Besides, I was already working on racism, researching and attempting to write that book on Indigenous, non-Indigenous relationships. Then about 2 years ago, on advice from a university professor, I read Arthur Manuel and Grand Chief Ronald Derrickson's book, Unsettling Canada, A National Wake-Up Call, and Paul Regan's book, Unsettling the Settler Within. And I can tell you, I was unsettled. I saw that my very approach to the work I was doing was from a settler, colonizer, white privileged platform. I had my opinion and I was determined to argue for it. I was set firmly in the position of power. This is how we can include Indigenous people in our Canada, albeit by learning about their cultures, but with a view to include what we found valuable from their culture into ours. Appropriation, condescension, supremacy. I realized I was talking instead of listening. So dropping the drive to write a book about my ideas, I started attending Indigenous events with my ears open and my mouth zipped shut. I stopped writing and started reading. And it was Reverend Deborah who pointed me to Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility, where I learned about unconscious bias, white privilege, microaggressions, the habit of white people taking up space by talking about ourselves and our unracism, and like Jocelyn, crying when we're upset, leaving the room when the conversation becomes too difficult. I hadn't even realized I have white privilege, and more importantly, that I use it. Taking the space, talking instead of listening. So from there, I moved on to another of Ibram Kendi's books, an adult book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, where I learned the difference between not being racist and being actively involved in dismantling the system of racism that white European empires have imposed upon the world, and of which I am a part. I realized that in being non-racist, I'd just been being nice to people who don't look like me. An important distinction from anti-racism, as Deborah said, the destruction of systemic racism, clearing the air of poisonous gas of racism, a poison we're all breathing, and that destroys us as human beings as much as it works to destroy the people directly targeted by it. So, motivated and inspired, this past December, I took part in the Dismantling Racism workshop series that Calgary Unitarians offered, led by Dr. Wilburn Hayden and his wife, Reverend Patricia Trudeau. And at the same time, I was attending Calgary Alliance for the Common Good's international workshops, wrestling with the truth of colonization. Both of these seminars included listening to the impacts of global white supremacy, providing tools to effect change, and participating in small breakout groups to share stories of our own racism, practice strategies, and discuss the ideas presented and our reactions to what we were learning. This was difficult, exhausting, and often painful work. And I woke up one morning, looked at my calendar, another workshop that evening. I dreaded that evening's gathering. I thought I should never have undertaken both of these at once. It's too hard, too painful, too shame-inducing. I'm tired of feeling sad and bad. I just don't want to do this anymore. And in that moment, I had a flash of insight into what getting up each day must be like for people of other than white races. They must get up every day dreading what awaits them outside their doors. But they can't just decide not to do it anymore, step out of their black or brown skins and just get on with life, unimpeded by racism. It was a life-altering moment for me, realizing that I had the privilege of choosing not to engage, and in fact of choosing not to dismantle the pillars that hold up my privileged position. And I realized then and there that I had to make a decision, either to just let go, enjoy the rest of my privileged life, or to really step up to the battle and not back down when the going gets tough. And that's when I stopped being just an ally, someone who helps someone else, and became an anti-racist. Became someone who can confess to being racist and acknowledge that I have so much to learn, and be willing to join the anti-racist team, to start dismantling the system that has privileged me, and begin building together with the world's majority population, those of non-white skin, a better world. where the worth and dignity of every human being is really honored, recognized and honored. So I finished both workshops. And then when the CUC's David Camps webinars were offered, I registered willingly, but girding myself for what may come up. However, this time, I found the work as sort of a second step. It was as if, having survived boot camp, we were moving on to the next level, where we start to engage. We had our last session yesterday, and we came out equipped with implements, tools to use in difficult conversations, and ways to engage effectively with others who, like I did, think that being non-racist is enough. Several of us Calgary Unitarians have gone through this process, and we encourage everyone, all of us, to take these opportunities, because together, we anti-racist babies can grow into a community that really upholds our first principle. And if we adopt the eighth principle, we'll show the world that we Unitarians move beyond words into action. It's an action principle. We'll move beyond our words and start dismantling structures of racism in our own institution, and then authentically expand that work into our larger community. Thank you.
At this moment, I would like to return to the thoughts on the importance of this congregation to each of us individually. Please take a few moments now to appreciate our connections to each other and to the broader community, even if many of them have to be maintained virtually at the moment, and to recognize that we are truly together and not alone. Our connections to this community are especially important in this challenging time. This congregation's vitality and ability to play such an important role for each of us and in the wider community is sustained by our willingness to give and receive. So please consider how you might further your role in our congregation, either financially or by contributing your time, knowledge, and skills. Thank you very much.
We've learned so much about the importance of stories, of hearing people's experiences. I want to thank Jocelyn and Pam for sharing theirs this morning, and recognize that it's stories from our reconciliation, truth and reconciliation process, hearing the stories of our Indigenous people, through hearing the stories of people of color within our denomination, that have brought us to a place of being able to be active agents in dismantling racism, addressing it, and working, doing what we can. One of the very concrete things that we can do as a congregation would be to adopt the eighth principle. One of the benefits of congregational polity is that we don't have to wait for the national organization to do so. We can do it ourselves. And I want to tell you, I want to offer what the eighth principle says. It would be an addition to our commitment to affirming and promoting, and this is the eighth principle, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Now, as I read this, and because I've gotten feedback already about people wanting to wordsmith it, I want to be very clear that these are the words that the people of color within our institutions and organization have asked to be used. For us to start trying to wordsmith it is, again, using that white privilege. And so I invite us to really look at these words, to do the work that we need to do individually and as a congregation, to be able to affirm and promote the inclusion of this 8th principle. As Pam said, this is an action principle. It is demanding that we take a stand to be anti-racist, recognizing fully that our principles and our faith already say that we are that, and yet the reality is that it is not being really fully engaged. That as we work to dismantle this, as we journey towards spiritual wholeness, we will have to do more work, and it will be uncomfortable. There will be so many tensions, challenges, and possibly conflicts that come out of doing this work. I remember when we first started talking denominationally about the welcoming congregation and the pushback that we welcome everybody. Why do we have to do any extra work to welcome the non-gender conforming folks in our community? Those who love people of the same gender. Why do we have to do extra work with that? And yet we all know that when we began to do that work, what emerged was the recognition of the places within ourselves where we were complicit in the not fully welcoming. If we are going to be radically hospitable, radically inclusive, it will demand of us that we do this work. I know for me, it will be now ongoing work for the rest of my life. And I really truly invite us, individually and as a community, to be willing to engage and do this work. We will each come in from different places of understanding. And as Pam said, even though doing so much work, previously it was that moment of recognition that people who have black and brown skin can't step out of it. That recognition when it comes into ourselves about what privilege means. And not that we're better than, but that we recognize and then use that privilege in order to dismantle racism and oppression. This is an invitation. And I hope that as a community, we are willing to accept the invitation, knowing that it will be challenging, knowing that we will make mistakes, that we will have to ask for apology, that we will have to grant apology. This is not easy work. It is the work I think that as a species we are being called to right now, and I do firmly believe that this faith has the opportunity to be able to do so and then to be an example. May we do so, and may we do so with humility, with a joy that is radical and revolutionary, with a love that is revolutionary. And as we do this work, may we know that we are going to be living through times of tension. This conversation has only just begun. But I close my Final thoughts this morning with words from Reverend Joseph Cherry, a friend and colleague, and his words of a prayer for living in the tension. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. And may we do it with that revolutionary joy and love. Jane?
Thanks, Deborah. The road to becoming an anti-racist ally, to working on anti-racism, is hard and it will be tough, and therefore so important that we make space as we travel together for rejuvenation, for laughter. And one of the ways we can do that best together is to sing together, friends. Remember, joy is an act of resistance, and when the music is strong, the movement is strong. That video that we listened to together at the beginning of our service is a song we're going to sing together now. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away. Let's sing. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. No, no, no. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. No, no, no. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. No, no, no. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This pride that I have, the world didn't give it to me. No, no, no. This pride that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This pride that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. No, no, no. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. No, no, no. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Sing that last line again. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. One more time. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Yeah.
As we close our time together, let us take that revolutionary joy, that revolutionary love, that is expressed in our chalice light into ourselves, and let us be advocates and warriors for justice and peace. I extinguish our chalice. And invite Jane to take us into coffee time.
I'd say we have quite a lot to talk about this morning, don't we? And to sing about, and all of it. So we invite all of you to join us. Please feel welcome to our virtual coffee hour. To get there, you'll click on the link that appeared in the chat area of your Zoom screen just a moment ago. Just click on that link and you'll get there. And to accompany us on our way, let's sing together our closing benediction, Spirit of Life.